Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Evan Geyer. Teachers can go their own way on state and relationship subjects. Examples like competitive activities, creations, games, journaling, efficiency exercises, budgeting, chores, state pride, and student teachers. Today we have New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And at the end of this show, I'll let you know why the eternal religion Christmas is different from the Jesus holiday Christmas, how my religion is different from other religions when it comes to Christmas time. However, for now, New Jersey. Let's put New Jersey up here. New Jersey. The New Jersey teaching theme is new team member someone. When there's a new team member, the new team member tries to get the attention of the team members who aren't new to learn. They want to learn from the team members who have been there for a while. So they're trying to get to the guys with experience, whether it's in business, whether it's in sports, whether it's in politics. If they're the new guy, they want to go to the establishment to try to get up on who they are, and so that they can do better. Seemingly, they go to the establishment, they go to the people who have been there a while, and that's kind of why things don't change sometimes. Is because the new guy gets in there, they have all these dreams and visions, and then they go to the establishment for advice and tips, and they kind of merge. And the establishment generally takes over the new guy rather than the new guy taking over the establishment. There's some interesting things on Trump and how he was kind of an outsider and how he might have changed some things. But that's why it goes in general. You need to match talent with talent, like when you're in wrestling. If you don't match talent with talent, you can get injured. People can, get injured if it's like an 8th grader versus a 4th grader. Generally, those are matches that you don't want to set up. Then there's the freshman initiation. The new team member, they got to go through freshman initiation, whether it's a track running through puddles, like I did, or running extra laps, or like getting wedgies or things like that you see in the movies. That's something that the new team members got to do, or you see initiation and fraternity clubs. That's just a part of life, and it's not always good being the new team member someone. Turnover is actually quite high, and I see it at my job. I see it at in sports when I was working in sports, and it's something that it's just because they don't like it. They get in, they're new, they don't actually like what they're doing because they're not good enough at it, or they're not leading. And so then they fall behind or quit or go another direction. If they can just stick with it, most of the cases, they become that leader and they become that person that people go to. And then they're having a good time. And once they stick with it, they're there for a year or 2 years. After the second year, the retaining rate is a lot higher. Skill level has correlation to joy. And that's just kind of true. So that's New Jersey. Studying that, maybe they could get the numbers. Going to the school, get the numbers. How many people showed up at least one time, and how many people showed up for 3/4, 3/3, 2/3 of the time, of the season, and study the actual new team member someone's. All right, next we got Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania teaching them pen the final decision. Need to wake up. We really need to wake up. The truth is good for America. We're winning. We need to continue to win. We need to pivot to a new direction so that we can maintain the lead. I would propose something that kind of radical. I know the stock market's going down. I I've been saying that oil exploration and production companies are going to outperform the market since the 2020 election in the voters pamphlet. And so in this case, the scenario, you slap on a 50% buyback tax, everything except for oil. Oil, if they have to compromise because you can't get through, then you could put it in. However, that way companies aren't buying at these extraordinarily high prices because I know the market's going down because oil is going up until we can get enough, electric cars, hydrogen cars, or electricity, or copper, and get the grid going good. We're going to have problems switching away from gas, and because it takes 10 years to replenish all the cars on the road, even when you're producing it at the high rates that we've got now. So if it takes 10 years and in 1 or 2 years there's a really big problem, you've got 8, 9, 10 years of a really, really big problem, even if you're working hard on the solution and you got it all right. So 50% tax on buybacks, because I know they're going down, make cash is king. These companies like Apple can earn like 6, 7, 8, 9% someday on interest on their money, on their cash, and have cash on the balance sheet rather than do other things like buy back at a high price only to see the price drop. Apple, Microsoft, Google, they got to get in line so that, we need someone up there penning a final decision to get this going. I was just in another election, and I ran as an independent, and I think that's part of the reason I didn't get a high vote count. However, I was in the voters pamphlet again, saying that I was correct, that oil exploration and production companies outperform the market. That was 2022. The Federal Reserve is separate from the government and makes decisions on money supply. If they slip, we don't know what's going to go on. There's 3 branches of government for checks and balances, and in Pennsylvania, we're studying the pen in the final decision. So what decisions have been made throughout history? Well, you just recently had the Build Back Better plan. You've had the bailouts of GM back in 2008 with Obama. You've had the bailout of the banks. You've had, speed limit laws changed. You've had a lot of this don't ask, don't tell thing. But looking at Penn and the final decision of what's been going on in history is important. And, I haven't been around long enough to remember things like back in Reagan. However, that's important to study what decisions was he making. And then you can make games to allow people to be someone else besides themselves, like Axis and Allies. Very educational about World War II. You can go be in Germany and be like Hitler, or you can be in Japan, or you can start in different countries and you can kind of see what was going on during those times. Games allow you to be a different someone. We have a pen for our own lives, however, games are important. So I would like to develop a game about my own life in fighting oil prices, the rise of oil prices, because that's what my life, a long time ago, I thought, it'd be good to walk because someday I'm going to want other people to walk. And so if I want them to walk, I should walk someday too. I wasn't calling oil prices higher back then, back in 2008. It's completely different from 2022. However, that's when I sold my car and started walking to work. And, I had a very difficult life doing that because there was no buses routes to work, and it was kind of difficult. Things have gotten a little bit better. However, I've moved on as well. However, I understand the situation that people are in, and I don't mind talking about it. In another episode, we will talk about marriage and how the ring in the internal religion is different from the Jesus religion. The ring in the eternal religion is different from the Jesus religion. And in another short movie, in another episode, I'll talk about that. However, I do want to get to the Christmas thing that I was going to talk about later. Christmas, man, the eternal religion, we take off Christmas Eve because we're celebrating Eve and the first of the humans. We take off the day after Christmas, the 26th, and the day after Christmas, the 28th. So we get 3 days of vacation instead of one, 3 days of Christmas instead of one. And we work on Christmas, hopefully, a place was open and we can make that overtime pay. We don't want to miss that overtime pay. We just work that Christmas, we make overtime, and we get our 3 days off of vacation and celebrate the first of the humans. That's my religion. And again, like I said, we'll talk about the ring in another episode. All right. Talk to you later and see ya.